Hello and welcome to the Driving Forward podcast. It's October 17th, and whether you're joining us live or listening on one of our 18 platforms, including Wreaths across America, where we broadcast every Tuesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time, we appreciate your support. Throughout the show, we invite you to share your comments and questions at any time. Your engagement fuels our discussion and helps us navigate the world of transportation and logistics together. I had a privilege earlier this week to attend the ATA Management Conference and Exhibition in Nashville, Tennessee. There were many insightful sessions. It was actually one of the better conferences I attended this year. As usual, Bob Costello delivered an excellent update on the economy and trucking freight market. I've talked a lot about this in the past, and I've always been a big supporter of Bob. Karl Rove delivered, Karl Rove's the former deputy chief of staff and senior advisor to President George W. Bush. And he delivered a great overview of the current political landscape. It was very unbiased, had a great amount of humor to it, and I really appreciated his point of view. Chris Spear delivered several statements, but foremost was his general session on the ATA's strategic priorities of the trucking industry. I'll do my best to give a synopsis of it. I certainly can't deliver it anywhere near as well as Chris in as little of time as I have to do. So, the ATA will continue to shed light on radical environmentalists, trial lawyers, and union bosses. Trucking will continue to be the driving force of our economy. 72.6% of our freight in our country is delivered by a truck. 8.4 million people are employed by trucking-related jobs, and 98.5% of pollutants have been eliminated from truck exhausts over the last 40 years. Trucks are 60 times more clean than what they were in 1988. 60 trucks on the road today are the equivalent to one truck in 1988 when it comes to emissions. Nothing without trucking takes the fight to the general population, to the everyday family. It begins to educate all of the people on what this industry represents. We know the pressures of the American families because we are the American families. Going forward, the ATA will become more aggressive with its messaging and its approach. Chris closed his speech with a quote, and I appreciated this. Let's stick together, let's get loud, and let's kick some ass in 2025. Today's episode of Driving Forward is one that's close to my heart. Alongside Jenny Malafarina, I'm proud to say I'm one of the founders of Freight Movement, a movement born from the belief that the future of transportation and logistics lies in connection, collaboration, and innovation. Joining us on this special episode are two of Freight Movement's driving forces, Whitney Johnson Cowell and Robert Bain. Vital leaders in this exciting journey with us. Together, we're going to unveil what makes Freight Movement more than just a series of events. It's a community where ideas are shaped, partnerships are forged, and the industry is propelled forward. We'll talk about the story behind Freight Movement, how these events are revolutionizing networking, and why building meaningful relationships in the freight industry is more critical than ever. If you're ready to explore the future of logistics and learn how you can be part of this movement, this episode is for you. Let's get started because the movement of freight waits for no one. Jenny, Whitney, and Bain, welcome to the show.
Hello.
So, Jenny, I want to do intros here. It's
Sure.
been some time since you guys have been on. Bain's on quite a bit, but Jenny, why don't you tell everybody who you are and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I came into the industry in 2016 with TMW Systems. I was with them for the merge with PeopleNet and 10-4 to become Trimble Transportation. Jumped over to Transportation Insight before joining Banyan Technology, and then finally came over to Virago Marketing, and I've been here since 2019 or 2020. Since being here, taking over the agency as sole owner, I've brought on great people like Whitney and Lee Sauter and Aaron Huff. So I've got an amazing team, and we're a team of marketing experts that are very capable of telling stories that resonate with this industry, helping people understand the landscape and building strategies that help their solutions go to market. And so we have an agency that solely serves the trucking and logistics space. And we're excited to, meet new people and partner with them and help them take their solution to the market so that we can improve transportation in general, right? Because ultimately the cost of what you're buying in the store is largely impacted by the cost of moving it to the store. So anything we can do to optimize that is going to ultimately impact our bottom line. So very integrated, love transportation, in it for a while, plan on staying.
Once you're in, you're in.
We're in. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Fair enough. Whitney, let's go to you next. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure. So I also joined the industry in 2016. I started off at Comdata, so on the carrier financial side, know everything there is to know about fuel cards, and moved from there over to FreightWave. So I have a taste of the media and event side and the tech side. I kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything while I was there. And then I migrated over to a brokerage, which was a totally different experience. And I found myself, now on the agency end. So marketing is kind of what I fell in love with on my journey. And now I get to do that with clients that are primarily in the industries that I have already worked in. So I know what they need, kind of blending two of my favorite things.
Excellent. And Bain, how about yourself?
Oh, hi, everybody. So I'm Robert Bain.
Oh, hi.
Who?
I am the strongest man in logistics and director of partnerships and senior consultant here at GLCS. Also part of the board of directors at the Broker Carrier Summit, which I'm sure we will talk about. Been around the space for almost 20 years. Doesn't really feel like it, but if you look back at the calendar, apparently it is. And a variety of asset, non-asset roles. But very excited to talk about freight movement. I think this has been something that the industry has needed for a very long time. And it's been super fun to see this kind of get off the ground and continue to drive things forward.
Absolutely. I think, we've been coordinating this. It's been a thought. It started as a thought, an individual thought of both Jenny and I. And then one day, Jenny and I were talking and we realized we had the same, very similar thoughts. And so then actually it was a group of people that came together and started to bake that thought, which eventually just became Jenny and I. And so then we sort of cooked it a little bit more and brought Whitney and Bain into it. And it's evolved in multiple iterations and now it has traction. Now we're starting to see more and more things come of it. We have more events coming up. And really, I think that's the fun thing is we see the first question I have for everybody is what inspired the creation of Freight Movement and how did the idea come to life? And I originally thought, when I was putting this idea together, do I go get someone else to bring us on their show? And I thought, nah, let's just do this ourselves. We've got plenty of a platform here to
do it live.
Do it live. Let's do it live. Yeah. So, and this way we get to answer our own questions and have a little bit of a chat about it. Because sometimes, reflection is powerful. And so what inspired the creation of Freight Movement, when it comes to me, is I wanted to connect people that normally don't get to connect. And, that inspiration, one of the core inspirations was actually Reed Laustelot when he started putting together his groups. And I saw company leaders speaking with drivers and brokers and just kind of everyone kind of speaking digitally. And I thought that would be really cool if we could put them together physically. Let's see if we can get some platforms to do that, and then get companies to start mingling that way. And you can certainly do that at conferences, but that's expensive. So let's get platforms that go wider and that are coordinated and that have thought and meaning behind them. And now we're starting to take off. So that's kind of what inspired the idea for me originally. And there's a lot of other components of it, but that's the core inspiration for me with Freight Movement. Jenny, do you have kind of your inspiration?
So from the marketing perspective, I talked to people about their solutions and how to take them to market. And I realized some don't know their market. And it was really alarming. And so to me, it was about connecting people so that they could understand who their end users are, who was using the solution, who they can integrate with. There's just as much as you think you might not. Like, are you really talking to your end users? Are you, like, you often talk to your buyers, but do you really get that feedback across the board? So, I was talking to somebody who was developing a solution for LTL, and I was like, do you know what your TAM is? Do you know what your total addressable market is? And they didn't. And so it was for LTL. And I was like, are you going after the top 25 LTL fleets that are moving 98% of the LTL freight? And they were like, no. And I was like, so you want the leftover fleets that are moving 2% of the LTL freight? And so it was like, do you know your market? Are you creating solutions that we really need? Or are you creating solutions because you think you have an idea that you want to run with? And so I really wanted to help companies connect that could integrate, or, like, in many ways, how many TMSs do we need, right? What's missing from a TMS, or why do we need more TMSs? Is there ways to connect, collaborate, things like that we could have more better, improved tech solutions. So that was the first thing that kind of came to mind, is like, really know your market and, like, how do you connect with them? Not everybody can afford to go to larger shows. Not everybody has a title that gets them to the larger shows. So bringing the industry as a whole together was really important to me. The other thing is going to larger shows. There's 2,000 plus people there, and I would meet 20 in the hallways or at networking events or whatnot. And I was like, how do I go to an event of 2,500 people and maybe walk away knowing 20? Or, you go there and you look for the 5 people you do know, right? So how do you build your network and your connection so that when you go to the show, 50 and you're just constantly running into them? So as you grow your network, you meet somebody that knows somebody, and it's so powerful. I don't know about you guys, but that's where everything happens for me, is like word of mouth. Hey, I know a guy that can help with this, or I know a guy that needs this, or not guy, girl, whatever. So I really think there's a lot of power in connections and networking. It's how the industry started, with, a good old handshake, and, that's how you do business. And you got your I think they, oh man, I don't know what it was, Nate. Do you I'm trying to think of the terminology, but it was like doing business on a handshake and stuff. And
gentleman's agreement.
There you go. There you go.
Like, you work with people, and humans like to work with humans. And I think, post-COVID, we miss those in-person human interactions. And as much as the shows are trying to make a comeback, and they are, there's still a lot of people that are missing the opportunity to get in person with people. They live and work in their house. I do. I'm going to fire my cat and dog. I want to meet some new people. So I want to get out there and mix and mingle and meet people. And I don't think I'm the only one that feels that way.
Bingo. So I'm going to pop this one over to Whitney and Bain, and we'll start with Whitney. So why do you believe networking is so essential in, well, truly any industry, but let's talk transportation logistics. And then Bain, once she's done, we'll flip it over to you.
I mean, I think I'm biased because my journey, I was one of those that didn't have a lot of opportunity unless if I put myself out there, like on LinkedIn or events that were places that I could drive to, and paying out of pocket. So, that was my experience for the majority of my career. And through being very intentional, having no other option but to be very intentional. It's not that I could just like show up, shake hands with whoever I wanted to, and then walk out. I had to really build from the ground up, and it's uncomfortable. Like meeting people and reaching out on LinkedIn. I always try to be gracious to people that reach out to me that are like just getting started, and take those calls and talk with them. Because I needed people to do that for me in order for me to actually integrate into the industry. And so moving into a role in senior leadership, being an executive at a very young age, then I felt a different type of responsibility with my networking. So going to those shows and being not the face of the organization, but being a voice that carries weight for the organization in front of others is a really tremendous opportunity. And I think some people forget how impactful that can really be, like how to really make the most of that, not just for like yourself personally, but for the organization that you sit in. And there are a lot of different outcomes. Like Jen said, there's partnerships that are made. There are relationships that are formed that carry with you. I mean, I'm a little bit biased because my network is how I landed at Virago Marketing. By the time I started, I had already met Jen and Lee from a conference, from shaking hands, from reaching out on LinkedIn, and from trying to stay in contact with them. So, especially, I think Jen was spot on. After COVID, people were like, "Oh, I'm so sick of these video calls." There's value in webinars and in the virtual space, but there is so much value also to be retapped into by meeting face to face. And I agree that sometimes conferences are really big. It's very overwhelming if you're just getting started. You have to have a game plan going in. And so having different ways to network, which is why I'm passionate about freight movement, having the opportunity to have conversations in smaller settings so that the bigger settings feel more comfortable was an outside of the question you asked, my driving force for what I'm doing in freight movement.
Yeah,
No,
I just want
great,
to add
great
on to
answer.
that really quick. Whitney and I actually tried to meet at a larger conference and just could not make it happen.
Nope.
we
We tried for days.
we tried for days and just could not make it happen because we had various, locations we had to be, because you do go there with an agenda. You do want to make sure you're getting your values worth at those shows.
So Bain, do you want to take that one? Why do you believe networking is essential in any industry, but specifically transportation and logistics?
You bet. I mean, I'll just look at it from a purely selfish perspective. I want to know people because I don't know what I don't know. Right. And so if I want to ever claim to be an expert or to, progress my own personal career. So again, just looking from a very selfish perspective, I need people and I want people around me or that I can get in contact with that I can get the answers. I don't need to have all the answers. I just need to get all the answers. That's the big thing. And so having a network in any space, but especially logistics, because there are so many little niche, unique things that go on in our space, no one can possibly know it all. That said, I do want to talk about too, when it comes to networking, it's important to connect your networks as well. That's something that I've learned over the last few years, that as you do that, it actually augments your own personal network exponentially. The more and more you do that, and you connect people. and what that does, that also comes back to you tenfold, where your network becomes larger and more folks you get access to. So ultimately, from whether it is jobs, whether it's knowledge, whether it is sales, whatever it may be, all those things come from having that baseline of a network, and then just always working on that. Again, purely selfish. Like, I just can't know everything, so I need people to know stuff for me.
No, that's perfect. And I'm going to segue into something else here, because somebody posted something this week on LinkedIn, and then Matt Dahl called me or tagged me on it. And that person basically said, why do we need more events? It looks like it's basically just a huge social hour. Why do we need more conferences? Those type of things. And my response to that was, you make the most out of these conferences. So whether it's an event, a conference, a summit, you need to go in with an agenda. You need to figure out what you want to accomplish. If you're going in without an agenda, you shouldn't go in at all. So if you're just walking in a door and saying, I have no plan whatsoever, you're failing before you even walk in the door. But that being said, the freight movement events are generally core created to be networking. Core, I mean, they're there to be local events with local people and expand that local network. You go to a major industry event, and very rarely are you going to pop in and find somebody from Minnesota. There'll be a few people, you're not going to necessarily, you might find quite a few people from Chattanooga, but you're not typically going to find somebody from down the street. Yeah. Same thing from Chicago. So, but, the major freight meccas you're going to find folks from. But also, that being said, if you go to a local event in that town, you're going to find a lot more people. And a couple of quotes that resonated with me that I wanted to bring up have nothing to do with network, or have nothing to do with the events themselves, but just simply have to do with networking. And Zig Ziglar said, if you can have anything in life that you want, you can have anything in life that you want if you just help other people get what they want. So the more people that you know, the more capability that you have. I mean, if you really pull that apart. And then Steve Jobs actually said, technology is nothing. What's important is that you have faith in people, that they're basically good and smart. And if you give them tools, they'll do wonderful things with them. So once again, knowing more people, giving them tools. So, from a networking standpoint, we continually build partnerships. And the more partnerships you have, the more tools that you have. So the more tools that you have, the more partnerships, the bigger you can go. That's how I see these things, these events coming out, both on the national scale and on the local scale. So my answer back to this particular person was well received, but it's something to keep and be mindful on all things. You can't network enough. You can't have a big enough network. So there are people with millions of followers out there, and they're still looking to expand their network. So with that being said, let's go on to another topic here. What's from a freight movement perspective, how do we envision it growing over the next few years? Right now, we're looking at events, and we're talking about other things, but we took this grandiose picture of a lot of other things and sort of slimmed it down to events. So coming back to Jenny, you want to talk about?
Well, I'm remembering when we first started having these conversations where we were at, and it had nothing to do necessarily with in-person events. Like when I first approached you, I think I had this like digital idea, and it kind of stemmed from, okay, I went to this event and I used their app to connect. But then when you connect in the app, it didn't carry on through LinkedIn or anywhere outside the app. And so like you had to go manually, move that over. And so for me, I was like, that's a digital disconnect in terms of building relationships because it stopped there. So when I think about where we want to take things, I think it's more local events. I think, making these events accessible to people who can't go to the larger events is really where we provide value, opportunity, or creating the opportunity to have conversations on a local level and making that more accessible. But we still want to support the larger events. We're not trying to take anything from them. We're trying to amplify them. We're trying to say, hey, meet these 20 people, 50, 100, whatever, here in Cleveland, Ohio. And then when you go to that show, you're going to know 20 more people there. And guess what? When you meet up with those 20 people, they're going to introduce you to 20 more people. Like, I mean, that's to me, that's the whole concept, is just amplification of connectivity, right? So where it's going to go, I think we'll have more local events across the country. I think that we're making it accessible, both in the sense that we're asking for corporate sponsorships to cover this, to bring people together, which lowers the cost. There's no cost to attend, right? So you've got an opportunity to come meet people, and you don't have to have $1,600 to walk in the door. You don't have to have a $600 in 2 hotel nights, right? So I think we'll do more of those. We'll partner with industry publications, associations, conferences, things like that, because what we want to do is to connect the industry. There's a lot of disparate communities, and I love them. I appreciate them, but they kind of stand to serve one segment. And we're saying, let's just bring them all together, right? So that's what I foresee right now. I think it's more local events, and then eventually building it out digitally in a I don't know the way yet, but building it out in a way that's beyond LinkedIn, because I don't know about you guys. I got 5,000 connections and I talk to 200, right? So it's like, how do I break through all that noise and really connect with the people that I want to? So those are just my thoughts.
So I agree with everything that you said. We definitely slow rode the beginning. We have a few events that we're going to chat about here in a little bit through the end of the year. We have a number of events, potentially dozens of events next year. And the other thing that we're talking about is some of these organizations have one event a year, and then they don't really have other events, or they're very sporadically having events throughout the remainder of the year. So this gives the capability of them to do pop-up events or join other events in various cities throughout the US and continue their messaging and gatherings and whatnot as needed. So that's been a discussion as well. So I see that as kind of the next evolution. And I think, there's probably a lot more. We've talked a lot of, we've thrown a lot of ideas against the wall, and we definitely scaled back from, our initial offerings. And I'm glad that we did, because, I've been to 2 conferences now that actually have some of the platforms that we were talking about. So,
okay.
So that, and I guess I never actually told you that, but the one I just came from actually had some of that stuff. So,
okay.
So coming back over to Whitney and Bain, and I'll let you guys kind of split up the answers, so you'll probably talk over each other. Partnerships. So partnerships with freight movement. You guys want to touch on who we're partnering with and how we're partnering with them and how that's gone so far?
Whitney, I'll let you go first.
Okay. We won't talk over each other. So we announced quite a few partnerships recently. And I will speak to the ones of how it's going so far, because we're halfway through what that's going to look like, at least for the announced partnerships. So one of them was with TMSA, Transportation Marketing and Sales Association. And that has been, from my perspective, looking at it through the freight movement eyes, really successful, because those are just the types of people all across the supply chain, different walks, that we want to speak to. However, it is a segment of it, right? Just sales and marketing, where our goal is to bring together, people from engineering, from product, from, customer success, kind of the total package of what an organization looks like. But that was such a good opportunity to meet people that are very specifically in the supply chain, that are focused on revenue, that are focused on growth, and have conversations with them. I'm looking forward to taking some of the contacts that we've made and that are interested in freight movement, translating that over to some people from some other departments at future events to see what those conversations turn into. What I've seen so far in conversations is that they're kind of all across the board. They go in all kinds of wild directions. We have no idea what's going to happen. It's not always encouraged to talk shop the whole time. So there's a lot of like getting to know each other on a very like personal level where we now know where they came from, what their background is in, where they live, their family, the whole 9 yards. And so by the time we do start talking about the industry, the impacts, what's happening in the market, it kind of paints a whole picture of how that's impacting people and organizations holistically. And I think that that's the reason why I'm excited to bring other people from other departments into the conversations with the folks from TMSA. And then we also, announced Manifest, which that hasn't happened yet, but the interest is there. I'm excited to bring a coffee chat out to the west side of the country. I've just been all over the Southeast. There it is. If you want to register for Manifest, if you haven't yet, you should go ahead and get your ticket and use the freight movement code. But that, I think, is going to be a prime opportunity to implement a little bit of what I'm thinking, like the buddy system, right? Where we have that coffee meetup where we get to maybe bring in people that have never been to the conference before. So when they walk through the doors, they have people that they can lean into for introductions. They know who to sit with, who to have lunch with. So that's where we've seen the partnership so far. I'm really thankful that it's kind of busted the doors wide open to the people we're able to talk to. And I guess I'll hand it off to Bain to fill in the gaps of the other partnerships.
Biggest one I'll touch on is the Broker Carrier Summit. Similar to TMSA, very near and dear to my heart. Having been a founder of that alongside Dan Lindsay, and really where I see the synergies is local events, just like you said, Jenny. They feed larger events, and so it's a great opportunity for folks to get in the mix, to start understanding what it takes to do networking. Because a lot of people that I've talked to, especially young people in the space, they have no clue how to actually go and network. They're used to, if they're just out of college, that is a different kind of networking than what we're talking about, right? And so taking those skills and kind of converting them into a more professional setting is a lot easier to do on a local level. And so I saw an awesome opportunity through Freight Movement. And then when you partner with BCS and you've got, the mission there is so similar, where it's bring these parties together that otherwise wouldn't be getting together, and create the conversations, create partnership and collaboration. And all that does is just kind of creates a flywheel effect from a local to a much more national level, and allows for a perpetual movement throughout the entire industry.
And really BCS, to throw it out there, because Dan talked about it last week publicly. So I'm going to throw it out there because it's already been kicked out there publicly, even though it's not official. We are talking about doing a non-scumbag tour with, sponsored by Broker Carrier Summit and most likely a few other people, powered by Freight Movement, a non-scumbag tour throughout the U.S. to keep the Broker Carrier Summit message going while the larger event, is being organized. Because that larger event, as all of us involved know, it's a monster. So, anyone that's ever been involved in any conference organizing can sympathize, and Dan masochistically has decided to do it twice a year. So, but yeah, so we're excited about that. We don't have any details on it yet. We're going to wait until after BCS Fort Worth is done, and then we'll see where we go with it. So, but hopefully we'll have something figured out February or March, and then it'll be a regular thing going forward. So, looking at things Well, actually, we've hit a point. Let's go ahead and run a commercial here. I guess that there goes a half an hour. So if we can, let's go to commercial here real quick. If your fleet's downtime looks like chaos, you're missing out on GLCS. In the fast-paced world of trucking and logistics, time is everything. Meet GLCS, your expert partner in managed IT services. We integrate seamlessly with your team, bringing seasoned IT professionals with deep transportation and logistics expertise. Imagine your software updates running smoothly, complex issues resolved quickly, and operations humming with efficiency. GLCS has your back. Our support doesn't just fix problems, it prevents them. With our industry connections and proactive approach, we keep your trucks rolling and your brokers working. Think of us as the added resource your company needs to unleash its full potential. Visit glcs.net today and keep your business driving forward. GLCS, where efficiency meets expertise. All right, and we're back.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi.
That was a quick commercial.
It's a minute. It's a minute.
Oh.
So,
Yep. Whenever I see the part at the very beginning where there's the flames, I'm waiting for Elmo to pop up. That's what it looks like.
We'll have to add that on Halloween or something. So, all right. So next, I'm going to take this one for a minute, and then somebody else can pick up the answer too. So, and it's how can companies best leverage events like freight movement to drive their innovation and their growth? And we've maybe touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to talk on this from like a sponsorship side and maybe a little bit of the attendee side. So, I've talked a lot about this. I'm passionate about freight movement. Whether we were going to have sponsors or not, we were going forward with it, and we've had a great success here. To gather some of the sponsors, and so our sponsors typically are those that are looking for brand recognition, are wanting to get out and meet their customers in their local markets, and wanting to have a larger gathering of them to where they can have discussions, and then also bringing just in general everyone and support the industry. So this can be anyone needs to be able to come to a freight movement event. Mm-hmm. So it can be brokers, carriers, it can be shippers, it can be drivers, it can be anyone. I would absolutely love to have an issue where we need to find truck parking or the logistics of getting people from trucks to the event. So that would be absolutely awesome as we continue to evolve to get to that point. That is absolutely what we want to be able to do. And so ultimately, that's really the path that I would love to see this go. But so how do you leverage it? It's ultimately looking at the markets that if you're looking to sponsor, what's the market that's best in your what market is best for you? And do you want to hold an event? If so, what type of event? We have an event staff or a group of people that are available for event planning. And we work with people on that to determine what your goals are for that event. And we schedule it out accordingly based around, kind of what your needs are, but still maintaining the fact that we have these core fundamentals that we're maintaining within freight movement to maintain kind of our foundation. And so far it's been extremely well received, and only in a couple instances it really hasn't matched up. But Jenny, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I talk to prospects all the time, and Whitney can vouch for this. Half the time my conversation starts going towards freight movement, because when you think about what you're doing from a marketing perspective and how you're connecting with your target market, there's nothing better than getting them together, right? Getting them together in person, sharing a meal, having a conversation. And so you see this a lot with a lot of companies kind of starting to do these network events. So you see a lot in Chicago, right? Like, we know that, But then I've seen some other companies where they're like, we're going to do like a road show and we're going to go into these, locations. So they're starting to do it, on their own level. And you see it also at conferences like F3. There's a big event before the show that like, hey, come in early. Let's get together. They create those networking hours. What we're trying to do is recreate those networking hours at the local level more frequently, closer to home, right? So I think, talking to them when they're trying to figure out where they allocate their dollars, where they're going to get the best bang for their buck, if they really want to focus on quality, it's connecting with their target market, considering freight movement as an opportunity, identifying maybe where is your target market at, and then holding an event there. And we invite the people that you want there. We invite everybody in the industry, and hopefully, you get to have those conversations that lead to something. You never know where a conversation will lead to. So no matter who gets there, I've always found value in a conversation, whether they introduce me to someone else or it creates an opportunity, or I can make a connection for them with someone else. So when you think about aligning your brand with freight movement, it's supporting the industry, it's bringing them together. It's a really great brand message. When you think of your purpose, like deeper, like, hey, I'm going to have some people there that I want to meet people, whether it's HR, sales, whatever. We don't get together with the intent of selling. We get together with the intent of having a conversation, but you never know where it's going to go. So I just, the networking hours at the shows is one of the most valuable aspects to me, because that's when I meet people and I could take those relationships and connections home with me. And so doing it at this level, get in front of your customers, invite people you want to talk to, invite your partners, invite people you want to integrate with, or your end users. Like there's just tremendous value in just having conversations and connecting with people. And so like I guide them that way. It's not because I'm behind freight movement. I do freight movement personally for like marketing for Bronco. It's an innovative approach, and you've got to keep innovating. And this allows you to do that.
Whitney or Bain, do you guys have anything to add to that? How do companies best leverage events like freight movement to drive innovation and growth?
I think exactly what Jen said, like inviting your customers and inviting your prospects to something like freight movement is very different than inviting them to like an industry event. And part of that is because our events are a little bit smaller. So you're probably going to learn something from those people that you may not have heard in a different type of conversation or in a different type of setting. And that's what I found to be really valuable. And I have seen two people make a connection that I think may have turned into a partnership. I didn't follow up with them about that. Just from a coffee chat. And that was just
Right.
5 of us sitting around a table having a talk about like what we see as far as trends and how that's evolved over the last 6 or 7 years. And I don't know.
I have just to interrupt. I happen to have heard of another one that you might not be aware of from the coffee chat. So there's at least 2 from your coffee chats. That
Good. Right. And so that's the value. Like I would love to see, and not just the coffee chats. That's something I'm passionate about. I like to have my midday caffeine. But these smaller events, we're opening conversations where it's not just one person on stage with a microphone and then people kind of sitting beside each other having those chats, or at cocktail hour barely able to hear each other, which there's still so much value in doing that and sitting down and listening to the experts and debriefing with the people in your space. But you're able to kind of tease those apart a little bit more. We're able to have I think, like I said, those conversations just go a little bit further when we're in smaller settings. And so it's not meant to take away from the big events. It's meant to enhance your experience when you do those, and also enhance your experience when you're in like those 1-to-1, 2-to-1, like company to company type of situations where you're really talking about solutions. So that's my perspective. That's been my experience so far. And I don't think that that'll change. I think we'll just see more of that coming to light. I think that that's the path and the trend for freight movement.
So Bain, you can either answer that one or I can hit you with another question.
Let's go with a different one. I think we
All right.
very thoroughly covered this.
Fair enough. I agree. So you did a post the other day, so I'm going to flip off topic here a little bit. you did a post.
You can
that
flip me off if you
inspired
want
this
to,
question.
I guess.
Yeah. I might do that just maybe later. What motivates you to keep pushing forward in the logistics space, and what do you hope to achieve next?
I mean, yeah, that does hit right on the post I made yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's important to note, you know, I got into this space because I just was trying to get paid. I had a young family, I was broke, and like I just thought there was an opportunity to make some money. And what keeps me around though is the people that are in the space and the people that are impacted by the space.
Mhm.
So when you think of it in that perspective, it literally is every human being in the contested supply chain. And so that's every person. It's man, woman, and child, doesn't matter. Every person is touched by the supply chain in some way because we consume, because we're consumers. And so knowing that, I what excites me and to tie back to freight movement, to be around people that feel similarly, that want to share best practices, they want to advance technology to get more out of our resources so we're not wasting things and get things to people who need them. You know, you look at just the movement of shipments and of goods. All that is and all that effort then comes to, we need the right people in the right seats, whether they are in our organization or not. We need them in their organization to actually move the stuff. We need them in the organizations that provide support and technology. We need them in the driver's seat, and bring those people together so they all share a common vision. Because for so long, this industry in general has been so disconnected. And so, you know, Nate, you made the comment earlier, you know, there's 8-point-something million people employed around trucking. Well, it'd be really tough to get that going with 8.1 million different visions. We need, you know, a singular one to push the industry forward. And so that's what keeps me going, is to be a part of organizations like the BCS, like Freight Movement, that want to bring those people together, align the vision, and then have everyone in lockstep.
So the reason why I asked that question is I'm going back to the beginning when we started this podcast. I'm going back to the beginning. When you go to an event, you have to have an idea, an agenda, something in mind on what you're going to accomplish. And at a freight movement event, it's a little different. It's not, you're not coming in to say, I'm going to acquire 2 new customers. I'm going to meet 4 new companies. You don't know necessarily what you're walking into at a freight movement event. But the question that I just asked Robert Bain is, what motivates you to keep pushing forward in the logistics space, and what do you hope to achieve next, is an amazing question to ask everyone at a freight movement event, because the majority of the people there are either just starting out or have a massive amount of tenure or somewhere in between. And you're going to start a great discussion with someone if you ask that question.
Mhm.
Right.
And you're going to have a great discussion for a period of time, and be able to move on to the next person and ask that question again. And whatever comes out of that, you'll get something out of those discussions at a freight movement event if you ask that question.
Yep.
Love it.
Yeah.
I concur.
So we are coming up on our ramp down. So I got a couple off. Anybody else have anything to add on the freight movement side? We'll get into our scheduling coming up here in a minute. But we
have dope t-shirts. I will say we have very dope t-shirts.
We have dope t-shirts. We need a lot more of them. And I have some wicked ideas to make them even more dope. So just get ready for that. I was talking to Jenny about it. She seemed to like the idea. So if she likes the idea, then it's got to be awesome. So, all right. If freight movement could have a mythical creature as its mascot, which one would it be?
A mythical creature?
A mythical creature as its mascot. Which one would it be?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't even know that I know any names of mythical creatures.
Oh, so disappointing.
I got unicorn, and that's because I got 2 girls. I don't know any names.
I'm waiting. I know Bane's got an answer.
I do.
Got an answer.
I want to give everybody else a chance first.
Is it a truck monkey?
No. All right.
I mean,
we'll do it.
it's hard because like I feel like I could attach a mythological creature to each person on this call.
Yeah,
And one is a little tricky.
What
That
am
might
I?
even be
Tell
more
me
fun.
now.
Yeah, now we want to know what we are, Whitney.
Yeah, let's go. That
Let's go.
sounds- that
Would
sounds
Bane
much
is like an ogre or like a gnome?
That's Bane. Yeah, fair enough.
Oh no.
I like the ogre. Yeah, that's about
Fine,
right.
an ogre.
A bridge troll.
yeah, fair enough.
Give me internet troll every now and then, so yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I don't
if
know.
I
I
had
think
to-
that would. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so if I had to attach a myth, it's a minotaur.
Minotaur.
Okay.
That's like
Okay.
the only one I know, right?
I was
It's-
going with the
it's-
griffin. I was going with the griffin.
I thought about that. I did think about that, and the reason I want the minotaur is they're strong, they're intelligent, it knows how to navigate the labyrinth that others
Yep.
cannot. And it does bring people together because they're really scared of it. So I like the minotaur analogy.
Okay.
Okay.
I can live with that one, I guess. So the next one, I gotta ask this one. It was the one I was holding until the end.
Oh boy.
Which piece of office equipment would you want? This is actually which piece of office equipment would you want to fight in hand-to-hand combat if it came to life, and why?
Ooh. Yeah. Okay. I am waiting for someone else. I have mine.
Wait,
Yeah,
hold on.
so Jen-
for fighting,
okay, which
piece of
pe-
office equipment?
Which piece of office equipment would you want to fight in hand-to-hand combat if it came to life, and why?
Well, I'm trying to think what I
Jenny,
would
you
be.
take it.
Well, I'm trying to
Oh,
think what I could be, and
Not
I've
what you would be, what you would want to fight if it came
No,
to life,
beat.
and why.
like I would
Oh.
beat if I fought
Yeah.
it.
Or
right?
Whitney, if you got it
come up
first,
with
because
a-
Jenny's gonna overthink it.
I mean, I'm like looking through. This is where I keep most of my stuff. My toucan.
Yep.
Like, not a clip because that would hurt, but like I bet I could take a paper clip. Seems flimsy enough. For sure, not a stapler.
Okay, paper clip. You're taking the clip it thing from all right,
Something
fair enough.
small. Like I mean, a
Oh.
printer. I for sure wouldn't win against that.
Yeah. See,
I chose
that's I'd be going after the damn copy machine because they just
Yep.
make me so mad, and I need to go. I
I'm
need to
one of
take
one,
out
baby. We ain't
anger
copying
on it. Yeah. Fair enough.
I'm gonna go with a mouse.
Mouse.
I feel like I could win. I'm gonna step on it.
Now,
Fair enough.
can I go back to that question, Nate? Does it stay the same size or does it become human size?
I would imagine it would have to get human size. So I mean, it has to.
I don't
it
want
has
to deal
be
with
fair.
a mouse the human size.
I'm just far.
And I wouldn't want to
I
deal
mean-
with this. That would snap so hard.
Yeah.
A paper clip's the way to go.
No,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
fair.
go with paper. I'm just gonna blow
The
it over.
copier doesn't change size. It's already human size. So it's already a disadvantage.
Yeah, and you already are mad at it. So
I know.
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
have been
paper clip.
defeated by a copier and it's not even come to life. Like I don't know if you've ever tried to get a jam out of like a copier. Tried that once, not going up against it again.
I'll just channel my inner Office Space and I will.
Fair enough. So since everyone's involved here on our outing or on all of these events coming up, I'm just going to leave everybody on, and we're probably going to go over time when I start reading through the events that are coming up here. So normally I kick everybody out and I just rattle it all off. So I'll leave everybody on. Jeremy, if you can run through everything, but I'm going to start rolling through because we're at 54 minutes. We'll be at Broker Carrier Summit. The event's October 23rd through 25th in Dallas. You can put it back up for longer than that, please.
Hey.
October 23rd through 25th in Dallas. www.brokercarriersummit.com. I don't even know if Bain knows this, but I'll be on a panel Thursday at 4 p.m. talking about the future of technology. At Broker Carrier Summit, we're on a mission to transform the relationships between carriers and brokers. Say goodbye to distrust and hello to mutually beneficial partnerships. We believe the key to transformation lies in fostering open communication, enhancing education, and meaningful connections. We would absolutely love it if you come. You can come at any time, really. You can walk in the door. Just use the code GLCS for a discount. You can still sign up at any time. We'll be going live next week, and also I think I'll have a banner up there. I'm bringing the banner with. We haven't talked about where we're putting the banner, but there'll be a Freight Movement banner up there also. So we'll be going live next week with the Driving Forward podcast on Thursday at about 1:15 at Broker Carrier Summit. As of right now, we'll have the big bad Robert Bain returning as a co-host. We'll have Hellbent Express Jamie Hagan on, HD Ships Matt Dahl, Knitchell Logistics Christy Knitchell, from Spot On TMS Blake LePan, and as of yesterday, Zeller Transportation Craig Zeller will be on the show. We may add a few more people on as we get closer, but we should have a super great time next week. If you're at Broker Carrier Summit, would like to do an interview, please hit me up on LinkedIn or send us an email at drivingforward@glcs.net. We'll be doing interviews there and would love to meet with you all. Following,
if nothing else, you want to be there at the golf event, because apparently now I'm doing the shotgun start, so I'm going to shotgun a beer and then smack a golf. So you want to see that?
So that's got to get recorded because I'm not going to be there.
Yes, that is going to get recorded.
I had good shots of Lindsay last time. So following Broker Carrier Summit, we have Jeremy Reamer on the show. Many people are familiar with Jeremy, but he's been in the industry forever. He's the founder of Driver Reach. He's passionate about health and passionate about drivers. He's just launched Project 61. And if you're not familiar with Project 61, you should certainly check it out. The trucking industry is the lifeblood of our economy, yet our drivers face a harsh reality. The average life expectancy of a CDL driver is just 61 years old, and Project 61 is here to change that. Project-61.org. I don't know if you guys have checked out Project 61 yet, but so right now, Jeremy's got an app, and he's got several hundred people on it. All doing steps, so it's checking steps, and you kind of log it in. It follows off your device, and if you're not doing it already, and you do monitor your steps and whatnot, you should jump on Project 61 and check it out. It's kind of cool. I've been doing fairly well on it, so 10,000-15,000 steps a day, something like that. So I've been cranking it pretty hard. Freight Movement Cleveland Coffee Chat on October 25th, held by Jenny Malafarina at the Tame Rabbit Specialty Coffee and Roaster in Chagrin Falls, Ohio at 11 to 12 p.m. Go check it out. I don't know where they come up with the name of these coffee houses, so we just don't have them around here. It is what it is. So if you guys are going to Freight Waves F3, November 19th through the 21st, or if you are around Chattanooga at that time, Freight Movement is pulling out all the stops with the Venture 53 Trucker Bar Party, and it's going to be legendary. Expect killer music, ice cold drinks, and a vibe so good it'll keep you talking about it for months. Whether you're behind the wheel or just looking to let loose, this party's for everyone. Gather your crew and gear for a night of high-octane fun that'll leave you buzzing with excitement. Don't sleep on this one. It's going to be epic. Missing out is not an option. There'll be an Eventbrite in the comments section of every media platform that we broadcast the show on live. We're excited to announce another Freight Movement Frosty Freight event, this time in Eagan, Minnesota on December 5th at Lone Oak Grill from 6 to 9 p.m. Christmas and holiday themed. We're excited to partner with our sponsors, Williams and Associates and Transport USA. We'll have more to come on this very soon, and we'll post an Eventbrite also in the comments. If you're going to Manifest and need a ticket, please use our freight movement discount code, manifestvegas.com/freight movement. Your support is appreciated at Freight Movement. We're not just about events, we're about a movement reshaping the future of trucking and logistics, and we're happy to be a partner with Manifest. Another Freight Movement podcast with Whitney Johnson Cowell and Robert Bain is dropping tomorrow. If you'd like to be a guest on this show, reach out to us via Messenger or email us at drivingforward@glcs.net. And wow, we came in at exactly an hour. I thought we were going to go over. And that should do it. Season 2, episode 45 is in the books. You guys got anything to wrap her up?
See you at a Freight Movement event.
Yeah.
Be in Fort Worth.
Stay curious, stay informed, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, drive forward with purpose and innovation. Thanks for watching.
I think the power of freight movement is that this industry has been so inundated with events and that are just produced on a colossal scale that connection that we talked about really has evaporated. And so when we start talking about smaller groups where the sole purpose is just to interact with your colleagues in a similar space, then we have a singular goal that we're focusing on, and it's without all of the distractions that come with a major event and likely also the expense.
The idea of freight movement is that just continued growth in understanding how we build out our network, our community, and really investing in those connections. It can be as simple or as purposeful as giving support to organizations that are allowing that connection and giving our folks on our teams another outlet to connect themselves, grow and learn in the industry, and encouraging them to step out in the industry and just grow themselves as an individual. But also, I think it's the idea of doing a connection with your community, right? Things where we can connect together in person and really actually build meaningful relationships.